I think one of the hardest things that I learned when I was developing my psychic abilities was the importance and the significance of objectivity. And I, grew up watching these psychics on TV, and I used to see all of them do these like spectacular and amazing things, and it seemed like they knew everything. And that's a very common misconception when it comes to psychics and sensitives, is that we don't know everything. I have to make sure that people know that even in the beginning of a session, because they think that I'm going to get on the phone and I'm going to say, hey, your name is so and so, you were born on this date, this time, this is when you're going to get married, on this day, this exact time, this is the exact name of this person, they are from this country or this place, and they who do this job, etc. Like, they think that we're like going to know every single detail and every single thing, and no one on the planet can do that, period. Not even the meteorologists, who have special devices that help them with their predictions, because that's what meteorologists do. They make predictions based off of data and the equipment that they use to help them collect that factual information. Doctors use diagnostic tools to help them in diagnosing and trying to make a good assessment on what they're thinking or what they're feeling based off of the information. But doctors aren't always right either. Meteorologists are not always right either. Sometimes the weather just does what it's going to do. And so it's the same thing with psychics. I think a lot of people have this assumption or this idea that we know everything and we can see everything. And there's some special level of expectation that we somehow qualify under, but nobody else in the world can qualify under. So it doesn't make any sense to me. But something that I learned along in the very beginning was that my own level of objectivity was going to have an impact and an effect on how I was going to sense, or how much I was going to sense. And I grew up watching these psychics on television, and I always thought they knew everything and they could see their own future. It's like, God, if we could see our own future and we can see everything, my gosh, life would be so easy. It would be, so much better. You wouldn't have to find yourself living mistakes, or you would have an errorless life. I don't know what person on the planet doesn't have an errorless life, or a life that's not filled with mistakes, but psychics are not one of them. So objectivity really is important, because the closer you are to the thing you're trying to sense, the less you're going to be able to sense regarding that thing. For example, and I actually turned it into like a 3-ring system. So I'm going to show you the 3-ring system right now. So with this 3-ring system, there are 3 layers or levels of sensing, and they are all based in objectivity. And objectivity is the most important key word here. So you being the center, you being the innermost part of the circle, the ring of circles, and then the outer layer, or the outer ring, is the area of people that you don't have a connection to, or that you're not very close to. So the closest being the inside, and then the outer layer being anyone that you're not directly engaged with or involved with. So the closer you are to yourself, the harder it is to see or to sense, because and I get on the phone a lot with some people who are like, I can see my own future. I'm a psychic, I'm a sensitive, I can see my own future. I can, I'm so good, I'm so accurate, or whatever. I'm like, well, why the hell are you coming to me? Why are you coming to me if you can see your own future? But they believe without a shadow of a doubt that they can see their own future, and that they're going to be 100% accurate. And that's unrealistic. And that, quite frankly, that's almost, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure there. I'm not saying that you can't sense anything about yourself when you're psychic and sensitive, but to be able to do it consistently and clearly is going to be almost impossible. Now you can sense things around you, but that have to do with your specific and direct experience. Like, first of all, there's a universal law in play here. We are supposed to have amnesia when we come into this physical plane of existence, because we're supposed to live our lives as ourselves. And if we knew exactly how everything was going to play out, and exactly how we were going to be directly impacted and affected, there are a lot of things in our lives that we wouldn't experience, or that we wouldn't go through, because we would choose not to. It's why we have this built-in amnesia effect, where we don't know what's going to happen from one moment to the next, in most cases. Now, granted, sometimes you'll have this glimpse or this flash of intuitive insight, and you'll start to, kind of have an idea or a sense of what's coming or what's going to be occurring in certain circumstances, but not on a regular basis. So the closer you are to yourself in the ring system, the less accurate you're going to be, because your own bias is going to get in the way. What you want and what you prefer is going to get in the way of what you're actually sensing. And so your own personal choices and preferences are going to affect the way that your brain is lining itself up with sensing the details that are necessary to figure out what the heck's going on, right? And so you have the most invested interest in yourself. Now, the second ring or the second layer is family and friends. For example, as far as sensing my own future, not really good at that. I can't really see my own future. Now, every now and then I've received opportunity to receive insight from, my higher self, my guides, whoever you want to call that. And that's been very helpful. And in an instant, in my lifetime, in one instance, it saved my life. So it kept me from burning alive in a fire. So I'm grateful for those opportunities when they just give me that information, because, it spares me a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. But it's not like they're telling me what's going to happen every single day. And so, when it comes to family members and friends, you have less of an invested interest in them than you do in yourself. You care mostly about what you're going through and what you're going to experience. You don't care as much for family members and friends. Now, you do care, but not to the level of your own self. So we typically tend to, love our family members and our friends. We care less or have a less an invested interest in what they're doing compared to what we're doing. Now, some people, especially some mothers, have that really twisted and backwards, which, in that in of itself is just, a bit too much. But for the most part, my sister lives her normal daily experience. I'm not really all up in her Kool-Aid like every day. So she lives her life. I have my life. So there's a level of psychic sensing that comes into play there. And there is a level of intuition that I am able to access with those kinds of connections. So family members, friends, I'm much better at being able to sense their future or their lives in comparison to my own. Now, there's still a level of accuracy that there's just an inaccuracy that is going to be there. It's a given, because even if you still care, you're still going to affect the way you're going to sense information. And for me, in one particular instance, my friend Chelsea, who passed away many years ago, she was hit by a drunk driver, and she was left on the road to die. And then she died a few days later in the hospital, surrounded by her loved ones. I know it is a sad story. I know you're like, Ferny, that's like, wait there. It is. It's a sad story. But the year that she passed, earlier that year, she had asked me to do a reading for her. So I did. I brought over my tarot cards. Back then I was still using cards. So I brought over my cards. I laid them down, and I began to tune into her future and tune into what I was seeing. And in one particular instance during her reading, I told her that I saw her. I felt like the end of that year, it was going to be just a really rough period for her and her family. And that I kept seeing the inside of a hospital, and I kept seeing her mother sitting down in a chair in the hospital. So by nature, I just assumed maybe something was going to happen to her mom. And I even told her, I was like, I don't know. The only thing I'm seeing is the last part of the year being sad or difficult and challenging. I see your family really suffering through the holiday season, and I see your mom inside of a hospital sitting down in a chair, and she's just upset, or she's really crying, like something's wrong. So I'm thinking something's wrong with your mom needs to keep an eye on her health. So I would just say, go make sure she goes to the doctor, gets checked, has a workup, whatever she has to do, just because I don't know if something's happening or not. Well, it turned out that fast forward to the end of the year, Chelsea's the one that actually was ill and was something happened to. Now, I didn't see anything that had to do with Chelsea, but it was because my own person, and I even blame myself. I remember after that, it was a really rough thing for me, because being able to see the future, being able to sense things for people, being able to tune in like that, why did I not see that this was going to happen to her? Why couldn't I have saved her? Why couldn't I have said something to her? Like, hey, I don't know what you're doing today, but can you do me a favor and just stay home? Why did I not see it? And I put myself through so much pain and just guilt, because I felt like I didn't do enough. I wasn't enough of a friend to see that for her. But I saw all these other components and all these other pieces. And I gave myself a really hard time about that. And, after some time, I realized that it's because I loved her so much, because I cared about her so much, that inhibited me from being able to sense things for her directly. And so even though I was able to sense other details and other circumstances around the event, I couldn't see her being the actual event. So when I kept seeing that visual of her mom in a hospital room, sitting in a chair in a hospital room crying, well, fast forward when this all happened, I walked in, Roxy, my assistant, and I went to go see her. And when we walked into the hospital, there was Chelsea's mom sitting there in a chair in the hospital crying. So it was exactly what I had seen. I just completely misinterpreted and misunderstood the symbolism or the details. And that's because I cared so much about Chelsea. I didn't want anything to happen, right? Anything bad to happen to her. And that's exactly what I got. I did not get to sense anything that would happen around her. That's not to say that that's still my fault, because it's not my fault. I believe that when things happen, they're meant to happen. But in this instance, it was just, I wonder how much more I would have been able to gauge or sense had I not cared about Chelsea or felt a connection to her. Of course, you can't not care about your family members or friends, so just FYI. The last ring, or the last layer, is it's the area or the layer of sensing that will be the most accurate, and you'll be able to get the most hits in this area. So, and it's where you have the least amount of bias, you have the least amount of invested interest in the outcome. And that's usually strangers, people that you don't know very well, or that you don't really have a close relationship or association to. So for me, when I talk to my clients, even though I absolutely love my clients, and I have so many wonderful clients, but I forget, I completely forget a majority of the conversations and the communications. As soon as I get done with one client and I get on to another client, it's almost as if the last conversation just didn't even happen, unless there was something significant that I was touched by. So I forget stuff fairly easily. And I believe it's because my brain is constantly in channeling mode, where information can't really sit and stay. It has to keep flowing, keep flowing, keep flowing. Because if we were designed to hold that much information, I think my brain would blow up. And we're not God. We're not omnipotent. We don't know everything. Again, so we're not designed that way. So with her, with that, so with my clients, it's like I don't have an invested interest in their lives. I care about them, I love them, I want them to do well, but I'm not going to get my own personal feelings caught up in what is going on in their lives. I'm not going to get my own feels about their situation, because I have to just be completely objective. If a doctor cared so much about every single person that he was working on or doing procedures on or whatever, that would affect his ability to do a good job, because his own personal feelings are going to affect his ability to just, to pay attention or to focus on things that under normal circumstances you would be consumed with caring or worrying about that person. It's the same thing with psychic sensing. So the least amount of invested interest you have towards someone and their life, the most accurate you're going to get, because I can get in there, tune in, and I can be completely honest with myself. I'm not breaking my friend's heart. I'm not breaking my sister's heart. I'm not, telling myself something I don't want to hear. I'm not trying to tell myself something I don't want to hear. And so with a stranger, I can be completely honest and open. Now, that doesn't mean I go looking for something negative to tune in for them, but I just go and be objective and be honest, and whatever I get. And I believe it's my responsibility to tell them what I see, whether they care to know that or not. They come to me, they already know this is my process, this is my way of doing things. So I'm going to share whatever I get, but I'm not going to go say, hey, oh my God, look, I'm looking for cancer in your life, or I'm looking for this. I don't really do it that way, but I am able to tune into quite a bit of detail. And some people are really just shocked at how much you can tune in. And it's because of the lack of being invested in that person's life and having an objective perspective. And I really believe that had I learned that a long time ago, I think it really would have helped me tremendously in doing a better job from the get-go, and not muddling my way through over many, many years of practice and many, many years of personal and direct experience. This is why so many people get, so many psychics, for example, the 2016 election, was it 2016? Yeah, with Hillary Clinton was going up against Donald Trump. And so many psychics, if you went online, it was kind of ridiculous how many psychics predicted that Hillary Clinton would win. And I had my own personal feelings or desire, or my own personal opinions about all that, but I honestly did not know who was going to win. And I had dreams which did not make sense to me, and they were very symbolic, but I didn't understand that. So I didn't make a prediction, nor did I tell anybody this is who's going to win. Now I told them, I think this is who might win, or I get a feeling this person might win, just based off of the energy. But even then, I wasn't saying, making a big bold prediction like this is who's going to win, that's it. But you did have a lot of psychics who did. And the problem with that was that, you know, if this were something happening in another country that you weren't directly impacted or affected by, you probably would have got that right because you don't care about the circumstance or the outcome and how it has an effect on you. But with this particular instance, so many people were predicting that Hillary Clinton would win, and she did not win the election. And so they, you know, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, all these psychics are wrong, or these people are not psychic. Some of them, I'm sure a bunch of these people were not psychics. They just are self-glorified psychics, because there's a lot of those out there. But with that particular instance, it's because so many people did care about the election. They did care about the outcome. And not only that, a lot of them made predictions based off of the fact that they wanted a particular outcome. Because of that, they basically shot themselves in the foot by going out there and saying, you know, this is who's going to win. And they also had all their feelings about that as well. So they basically set themselves up for failure, and they didn't get that correctly. And it was because they had an impersonal invested interest and personal bias towards the event itself. So you want to get more accurate, you really have to work on utilizing objectivity, because objectivity is going to be key in sensing accurately and getting more information in more detail, because that means you're willing to see the things that you don't want to see, but you're willing to see it for the purpose of the reading or for the purpose of giving that person guidance and support in their upcoming life and situations. So I hope this made that very clear for you guys, and I will talk to you next time. Okay, bye-bye.